The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. By the year 2247, those dreams had become reality. Humans had spread to 3 star systems. They built cities on distant worlds. They raised children under alien suns. They believed they had finally found their place among the stars. They were wrong. The Zethari Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. Their empire stretched across 400 star systems. They had conquered dozens of species. Some they enslaved, others they destroyed completely. To the Zethari, the galaxy belonged to them. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid was theirs by right of conquest. Emperor Vorketh the Eternal sat upon his throne made of bones from 100 dead worlds. He was ancient beyond human understanding. His gray skin was marked with the scars of countless wars. His 4 eyes glowed with cruel intelligence. When his scouts brought news of humanity, he laughed. These creatures live for less than a century. He said to his war council, "They are insects, vermin, and they dare to build colonies on worlds that belong to us?" Admiral Silvex, commander of the Emperor's forward fleet, bowed his head. "My Emperor, shall I send diplomats to negotiate their surrender?" Vorketh's laugh echoed through the throne room. "Negotiate? With insects? No. Give them a choice. They can leave, or they can die. I care not which they choose." 3 weeks later, a Zethari scout fleet appeared in the sky above New Horizon. It was humanity's largest colony outside Earth. More than 2 million people called it home. Families lived there. Children played in parks under the warm light of a yellow sun. It was a world full of hope. Ambassador Helena Vance was the first human to speak with the Zethari. She was a calm woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had spent her whole life working for peace. When the alien ships appeared, she believed this was the moment humanity had waited for. First contact with another civilization. A chance to learn and grow together. She transmitted a message of greeting. "On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, we welcome you. We come in peace and hope for friendship between our peoples." Admiral Silvex appeared on her screen. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes like black holes. He looked at Helena the way a person might look at a bug crawling across their floor. "You are the leader of these creatures?" he asked. "I am the ambassador. I speak for humanity in matters of..." Silence. Silvex raised one long finger. "I did not give you permission to speak. You will listen. The worlds you have infested belong to the Zethari Dominion. You have 30 cycles to abandon all colonies beyond your birth world. Take only what you can carry. Leave everything else. If you refuse, you will be cleansed." Helena's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "Admiral, surely we can discuss this. There must be room in the galaxy for both our peoples. We ask only for..." I said silence. Silvex leaned forward. "Do you understand your position, insect? Your entire species has existed for less time than I have been alive. You have no technology we value. You have nothing to offer. You are pests, and pests do not negotiate with the exterminator." The transmission ended. Helena immediately contacted Earth. Within hours, the United Earth Coalition gathered for an emergency meeting. Military leaders, scientists, and politicians from every nation sat together. They watched recordings of the alien message. They studied the Zethari ships. What they learned terrified them. "Their fleet outnumbers ours 50 to 1, said General Marcus Chen. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind. The military had overlooked him for years because he asked too many questions. Now, those questions might save humanity. Their weapons are more powerful. Their shields are stronger. In a direct fight, we would lose in hours. Then we must evacuate, said one politician. We must accept their terms. And go where? Asked another. Earth cannot support all our colonies. Millions would starve. Better starving than dead. The arguments continued for hours. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to run. A few suggested hiding and hoping the Zethari would forget about them. While humans debated, Emperor Vorketh made a decision. He was bored of waiting. He wanted entertainment. Destroy one of their colonies, he commanded. Let them see what happens to those who hesitate when the Dominion speaks. Admiral Silvex received the order with pleasure. He chose New Horizon. It was their largest colony. Its destruction would send the clearest message. Ambassador Helena Vance was still on New Horizon when the attack began. She was helping families prepare for possible evacuation. She was telling a young mother that everything would be fine, that humanity would find a way. Then the sky turned to fire. The Zethari weapons were beyond anything humans had ever seen. Great beams of energy fell from the sky like the anger of an evil god. Buildings melted. Streets turned to glass. People had no time to run, no time to hide, no time to say goodbye. 2,300,000 people died in less than 10 minutes. Men, women, children, elderly, young, rich, poor. They all burned together. The last transmission from the planet was Helena Vance's voice. Calm even at the end. Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we tried for peace. Tell them I'm sorry. Then there was only silence. The news reached Earth within the hour. At first, people did not believe it. They could not believe it. An entire world. Gone. Millions of people. Dead. It seemed impossible. It seemed like a nightmare. But it was real. Emperor Vorketh broadcast a message across the galaxy. He wanted everyone to see. He wanted everyone to learn. Behold what happens to those who defy the Dominion, he said, his 4 eyes gleaming with cruel joy. These humans thought they could stand against us. Look at them now. Ash and memory. Nothing more. To any species watching, let this be your lesson. The galaxy belongs to the Zethari. It always has. It always will. He expected fear. He expected surrender. He expected the surviving humans to fall to their knees and beg for mercy. He had made a terrible mistake. Across human space, people watched the destruction of New Horizon. They saw the fire falling from the sky. They saw the cities burning. They saw 2 million of their brothers and sisters die in moments, and something changed inside them. For centuries, humans had fought each other. Nations against nations. Religions against religions. Ideologies against ideologies. They had wasted so much time and blood on their differences. No more. In that moment of shared grief, humanity became one. Old enemies embraced. Ancient hatreds dissolved. Every human, regardless of where they were born or what they believed, felt the same thing. It started as grief. Then it became anger. Then it became something harder and colder and more dangerous. It became resolve. In homes and ships and stations across 3-star systems, humans spoke the same words. They made the same promise. They swore the same oath. Remember New Horizon? The Zethari had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had conquered every species they had ever met. They had never been challenged. They had never known fear. They were about to learn, because they had made the worst mistake any empire could make. They had not simply attacked humanity. They had not simply killed millions of innocent people. They had done something far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to fight together, and the universe had never seen anything more terrifying than humanity united. The funerals lasted for weeks. Every human settlement held ceremonies for the dead of New Horizon. People who had never met the victims wept for them. Children drew pictures of stars to honor those who had burned. Workers stopped their machines for moments of silence. Soldiers stood at attention, tears running down their faces. But grief alone would not save humanity. And everyone knew it. General Marcus Chen had not slept in 4 days. He sat in a small room surrounded by screens showing everything humanity knew about the Zethari. Their ships, their weapons, their tactics, their history. He studied it all with the desperate focus of a man trying to solve an impossible puzzle. 12,000 years, he muttered to himself. They have ruled for 12,000 years. They have never lost a war. Never. His assistant, a young officer named James, brought him coffee. Sir, you need rest. You cannot help anyone if you collapse. Chen shook his head. Look at this, James. He pointed to a screen showing Zethari battle records. Every species they have fought did the same thing. They built bigger ships, more powerful weapons. They tried to match the Zethari strength for strength, and they all lost. So what do we do differently? Chen was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he began to smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had found an answer he did not want to find. They have never fought an enemy that learns, he said. They have been the strongest for so long that they have stopped growing, stopped changing. They fight the same way they did 1,000 years ago. They expect every enemy to do the same. He turned to James. We will not give them what they expect. We will give them chaos. Within a week, Chen presented his plan to the coalition leaders. Many thought he was insane. Some called him a fool. But no one else had a better idea. And time was running out. The plan had a simple name: adapt and overcome. Humanity would not try to build a bigger fleet. They would not try to match the Zethari ship for ship. Instead, they would fight, like water against stone. They would flow around the enemy, strike from unexpected places, disappear before the Zethari could respond. They would fight a war of 1,000 cuts, bleeding the Empire slowly until it weakened. While Chen organized the military, others worked on different problems. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was a scientist who had spent her life studying alien technology. When salvage teams recovered pieces of destroyed Zethari scout ships, she worked without rest to understand them. Her laboratory became a place of miracles. Their technology is advanced, she told the coalition after 2 weeks of study. But it is also old. They have not improved it in centuries. They saw no need. This gives us an opportunity. She held up a small device. This is a Zethari shield generator. It took them 300 years to develop. My team has improved it in 12 days. We can do the same with their weapons, their engines, their sensors, everything they have created over thousands of years. We can match in months. Some people doubted her. They said it was impossible. Humans were too young, too inexperienced, too primitive. Yuki just smiled. The Zethari think in centuries. We think in moments. That is not our weakness. That is our greatest strength. Across human space, the transformation began. Factories that had made consumer goods now made weapons. Schools taught tactics alongside mathematics. Artists created propaganda that turned grief into anger and anger into determination. Every human became part of the war effort, and they began to strike back. Small human ships, fast and hard to detect, started attacking Zethari supply convoys. They would appear from nowhere, fire their weapons, and vanish before the enemy could respond. Each attack was small. Each victory was minor, but they added up. Admiral Silvex received reports of these attacks with growing frustration. He had expected the humans to surrender after New Horizon. Instead, they were fighting back like angry insects. These attacks are meaningless, he told his officers. They destroy a supply ship here, damage a patrol there. It changes nothing. We will crush them all in time, but the attacks continued. And they grew bolder. Human hackers discovered that the Zethari used the same computer codes they had used for thousands of years. They had never changed them because no one had ever challenged them. Within weeks, humans had broken through their security. They stole information. They disrupted communications. They turned the enemy's own systems against them. One night, every screen in Admiral Silvex's fleet displayed the same message. Remember New Horizon. We are coming. Silvex destroyed the screens in rage, but he could not destroy the fear growing in his heart. He sent a report to Emperor Vorketh. The humans are proving more troublesome than expected. They fight without honor, striking from shadows like cowards. But they are still weak. I request additional ships to finish this quickly. The Emperor granted his request. He sent 50 more warships to join Silvex's fleet. It should have been enough to crush any resistance. It was not. The additional ships needed supplies. More supplies meant more convoys. More convoys meant more targets. The human attacks increased. For every ship the Zethari added, they lost 2 convoys to human raiders. Months passed. The Zethari still held their ground, but they were not advancing. For the first time in 12,000 years, they were stuck, unable to move forward, unable to end a war they had expected to win in days. On Earth, General Chen watched the reports with careful eyes. The first phase of his plan was working. The enemy was frustrated and confused. They did not understand what was happening. Now it was time for the second phase. He gathered his commanders for a secret meeting. When he explained what he wanted to do, the room fell silent. Then everyone started talking at once. Impossible, said one admiral. Suicide, said another. We would lose everything, said a third. Chen waited for them to finish. Then he spoke quietly. The Zethari think they are hunting us. They believe we are hiding, waiting for death. They are wrong. He displayed a map of the enemy fleet positions. We have spent months making them comfortable, making them confident. They have spread out, trying to find us. Their formations are loose. Their guard is down. He pointed to a narrow passage between two great clouds of stellar gas. This is the Kepler Straits. It is the only path between their forward fleet and their supply bases. If they lose control of this passage, their entire invasion force will be cut off, trapped, starving. And how do we take it? Asked an admiral. They have ships guarding it constantly. Chen's smile returned. That cold, dangerous smile. We do not take it. We let them give it to us. We make them chase us through it. And when they do, he pressed a button. The display showed the Kepler Straits filled with thousands of tiny dots. Those are mines, Chen said. Autonomous weapons, sensor jammers, traps of every kind. We have been placing them for months. The Zethari do not know they are there. When their fleet enters the straits, they will sail into the largest ambush in history. The room was silent again. But this time, the silence was different. It was the silence of hope. They think we are insects, Chen said. Let us show them what a swarm can do. The orders went out that night. Every human ship, every fighter, every soldier prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of their species. The Zethari had no idea what was coming. They were about to find out. The trap was set. Now humanity had to spring it. General Chen gave the order on a cold morning in November. Human ships across 3 star systems began to move. They did not attack. They did not fight. They ran. To the Zethari, it looked like the humans had finally broken. After months of small attacks, they were retreating toward Earth, running home to die on their birth world. Admiral Silvex watched the human ships flee and felt satisfaction warm his cold heart. At last, he said, the insects understand their place. Send word to the Emperor. The humans are retreating. We will follow and destroy them. His officers cheered. They prepared for the final victory. They imagined the glory that awaited them when they burned Earth to ash. They did not notice the trap closing around them. The human fleet retreated slowly, always staying just out of reach. They led the Zethari deeper and deeper into human space, past colonies, past outposts. Toward the Kepler Straits, Chen watched from his command ship as the enemy took the bait. Patience, he told his officers. Let them come. Let them think they have won. The Zethari fleet was massive. 300 warships, each one larger than anything humanity could build. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could stop anything the humans could throw at them. In a fair fight, they would win easily. This would not be a fair fight. The human fleet entered the Kepler Straits first. The great clouds of stellar gas rose on either side like walls of fire. It was a narrow passage, barely wide enough for the massive Zethari ships to pass through safely. The perfect place for an ambush. Admiral Silvex did not hesitate. He ordered his fleet forward. He could taste victory. His ships entered the straits in a long line. Their sensors showed nothing unusual. Their shields were strong. Their weapons were ready. They had no reason to fear. Then the mines woke up. The first explosions tore through the Zethari formation, like fire through dry grass. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles broke apart in seconds. Shields that had never failed suddenly collapsed under waves of energy. The mines were everywhere, hidden in the gas clouds, impossible to see until they struck. Silvex screamed orders. All ships, defensive formation. Find those mines and destroy them. But there were too many. For every mine they destroyed, 10 more appeared. And the mines were smart. Human engineers had programmed them to learn, to adapt, to find the weak points in enemy shields. The Zethari had never faced weapons that could think. The human fleet turned and attacked. They came from every direction, emerging from hiding places in the gas clouds. Small ships, fast and deadly, struck at the confused enemy. They hit damaged ships and finished them. They targeted engines and weapons. They fought with desperate courage. In the first hour, the Zethari lost 40% of their forward fleet. Ships that had taken centuries to build burned like paper. Crews that had conquered dozens of worlds died in fire and vacuum. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Zethari knew fear. Admiral Silvex fought to control his panic. This could not be happening. These were humans. Insects. They could not be winning, but they were. On the occupied human worlds, resistance fighters saw their chance. For months, they had hidden, waiting for this moment. Now they rose up together, armed with anything they could find. They attacked their occupiers. The Zethari had never faced ground resistance. They had always conquered from space, burning any world that defied them. But they needed human worlds intact for their resources. They had to fight on the ground. And on the ground, humans were terrifying. They fought in the ruins of their own cities. They used every building, every street, every shadow as a weapon. They built bombs from farming equipment. They made guns from pipes. They attacked with knives, with rocks, with their bare hands. A Zethari commander reported back to his superiors, "These creatures are insane. We kill 10 of them, and 20 more appear. They do not surrender. They do not retreat. They fight until they die. And even dying, they try to take us with them." Back in the Kepler Straits, the battle continued. The Zethari were trying to retreat, but the mines blocked their escape. They were trapped, just as Chen had planned. Then came the moment that would become legend. The UES Defiance was a small destroyer. It carried 200 crew members and enough weapons to annoy a Zethari warship, but not much more. Its captain was a woman named Sarah Park. She was 32 years old. She had a husband on Earth and a daughter who had just learned to walk. She saw a Zethari dreadnought breaking through the minefield. Behind it, 3 transport ships carried 50,000 human refugees from an evacuated colony. If the dreadnought reached them, they would all die. Captain Park made her decision in less than a second. "All hands," she said over the ship's speakers. "This is the captain. The enemy is going to reach our people unless we stop them. We do not have the weapons to destroy that ship, but we have one thing we can use. Ourselves." She paused. Her crew waited in silence. "I am ordering an evacuation. Everyone to the escape pods. I will pilot the ship alone." No one moved. Her first officer, a young man named David Osei, spoke for everyone. "Captain, with respect, if you're staying, we're all staying. That's how it works." Park felt tears in her eyes. She wanted to argue. She wanted to order them to leave, but she knew it would be pointless. "Then let's give them something to remember," she said. The Defiance accelerated to maximum speed. Every alarm on the ship screamed. The hull began to shake apart, but the ship held together long enough. The dreadnought saw them coming. It fired every weapon it had. The Defiance's shields failed. Its hull tore open. Crew members died at their stations, still fighting, still pushing forward. Captain Park sent one final transmission as her ship screamed toward the enemy. Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. "Tell my daughter I love her. Tell Earth we never knelt." The Defiance struck the dreadnought at full speed. The explosion lit up the Kepler Straits like a new sun. When it faded, both ships were gone. 200 humans had died, but 50,000 refugees escaped. The story spread through human space within hours. We never knelt. The words became a battle cry, a promise, a prayer. Emperor Vorketh watched the battle reports from his throne. He saw his fleet being destroyed. He saw his soldiers dying on occupied worlds. He saw everything he had built over 12,000 years beginning to crack. For the first time in his long, long life, he felt fear. He made a decision. He would go to the front himself. He would take his personal flagship, the Eternal Throne, the most powerful ship in the galaxy. He would crush these insects personally. His advisors warned him. They said it was too dangerous. They said he should stay safe. The Emperor laughed at them. "These are humans," he said. "What could they possibly do to me?" He did not know that General Chen was listening. Human hackers had broken into the Zethari communication network long ago. They heard everything. Chen smiled when he learned the Emperor was coming. It was a cold smile, a deadly smile. "He wants to see us die," Chen said to his officers. "Let us show him something else instead." The Eternal Throne was the largest ship ever built. It stretched for kilometers, a floating palace of war and power. For 12,000 years, it had been the symbol of Zethari might. No enemy had ever touched it. No weapon had ever scratched its perfect hull. Emperor Vorketh stood on its bridge, surrounded by his guards and advisors. Through the great windows, he watched human space spread out before him. Soon, it would all be ash. "How much longer until we reach Earth?" he asked. 3 days, my Emperor," said his navigation officer. "Our fleet will clear any resistance in our path." Vorketh smiled. He was looking forward to this. He would burn Earth slowly, letting the humans watch their world die. It would be a fitting end to this annoying war. He did not know that his death was already being planned. General Chen stood before a room full of soldiers. They were the best humanity had. Special forces, trained for the impossible. They sat in silence, waiting for their commander to speak. "You know why you are here," Chen said. "The Emperor has entered our space. His flagship is the heart of the Zethari command structure. If we destroy it, if we kill Vorketh, their entire military will collapse. The war will be over." He paused, looking at each soldier in turn. "I will not lie to you. This mission will likely kill everyone who attempts it. The Eternal Throne is heavily defended. Even if you breach its hull, even if you fight your way inside, escape will be almost impossible. I am asking you to die." He let the words hang in the air. "Anyone who wishes to leave may do so now. No one will think less of you." No one moved. No one spoke. Chen nodded slowly. "Then let me tell you the plan. The assault force would use captured Zethari transport ships. Human technicians had stolen the enemy's identification codes. They would approach the Eternal Throne disguised as friendly vessels. By the time the Zethari realized the truth, the humans would already be inside. Captain Amara Osei would lead the ground team. She was 40 years old, a veteran of a dozen impossible missions. She had lost her husband at New Horizon. She had nothing left to lose, and everything to fight for. "Get me to the Emperor," she told Chen. "I will handle the rest." The assault force launched 2 days later. 5 transport ships, each carrying 200 soldiers, 1,000 humans, against an empire. As they approached the Eternal Throne, Amara spoke to her soldiers. "The Zethari have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. They have never been challenged. They have never been defeated. Today, we change that. Today, we show them that humanity does not kneel. Today, we remind the universe that the smallest creature can bring down the greatest giant, if it is brave enough to try." The ships transmitted their stolen codes. The Zethari defenses let them pass. They docked at the lower levels of the flagship without raising any alarms. Then the killing began. Human soldiers poured out of the transports, weapons blazing. Zethari guards fell before they could even react. The invaders moved through the ship like a flood of fire, cutting through every defense in their path. Alarms screamed throughout the Eternal Throne. Emperor Vorketh received the news with disbelief. "Humans, inside my ship? Impossible." But it was very possible, and they were coming for him. Captain Osei led the charge toward the throne room. Every step cost lives. Zethari soldiers fought back with desperate fury. Human soldiers fell, but others took their place. They would not stop. They could not stop. The corridors became slaughterhouses. Bodies from both sides lay everywhere. The walls were painted with blood, and still the humans pushed forward. Osei lost count of how many soldiers died around her. She lost count of how many enemies she killed. She focused only on the goal, the throne room, the Emperor, the end of the war. Finally, they reached the great doors. Only 50 human soldiers remained out of the original 1,000. 50 against whatever waited inside. Osei did not hesitate. She blew the doors open and led the charge. The throne room was vast, a cathedral of alien architecture, and at its center, surrounded by his elite guards, stood Emperor Vorketh himself. He was ancient and terrible. His gray skin was marked with the history of his conquests. His 4 eyes burned with cold fire. He held a weapon that glowed with deadly energy. "You dare," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You insects dare to enter my presence?" Osei raised her weapon. "We dare everything. That is what you never understood." The battle for the throne room was the most violent in human history. Vorketh's guards were the finest warriors in the Empire. They fought with skill born of thousands of years of war. Human soldiers died by the dozen, but they kept coming. Vorketh himself joined the fight. He was faster than anything his size should be, stronger than any human could match. He killed 6 soldiers in the first 10 seconds. His weapon cut through armor like paper. Osei watched her soldiers fall. She watched friends die. She felt bullets and blades tear through her own body. But she did not stop moving toward the Emperor. When she finally reached him, she was the last human standing. Her left arm hung useless at her side. Blood covered her face. She could barely see through the pain, but she was close. So close. Vorketh laughed. "Look at you. Broken. Dying. And still you fight. I almost admire you, insect." "My name," Osei said, raising her weapon with her remaining good arm, "is Captain Amara Osei. Remember it." She fired. The Emperor's personal shield absorbed the blast. But Osei had expected that. The shot was just a distraction. As Vorketh moved to strike her down, she lunged forward and drove a blade into his chest, through a gap in his ancient armor. The Emperor's eyes went wide with shock. For 12,000 years, no one had touched him. No one had hurt him. He was supposed to be immortal. He grabbed Osei by the throat, lifting her off the ground. His grip crushed her windpipe. She could feel herself dying, but she smiled. 12,000 years. She whispered, blood dripping from her lips. And you never learned. You do not corner something meaner than you. She twisted the blade. Emperor Vorketh the Eternal, ruler of 400 star systems, conqueror of 100 species, died on the floor of his own throne room. His last sight was a human woman, broken and bloody, standing over him in victory. Captain Osei fell beside him. She had just enough strength to activate her communicator. Chen, she said, her voice barely a whisper. It is done. The Emperor is dead. Tell my son. Tell David I love him. Then she closed her eyes. Outside the Eternal Throne, the battle continued. But when news spread that the Emperor had fallen, the Zethari fleet froze. Their command structure, built around one immortal leader, collapsed. Ships stopped fighting. Officers argued about who was in charge. Chaos spread through their formations. General Chen did not waste the opportunity. Human ships attacked from every direction. The remains of the Zethari fleet broke apart. Some surrendered. Others fled. The mighty invasion force that had come to destroy humanity was destroyed instead. When it was over, Chen sent a message to the surviving Zethari commanders. Your emperor is dead. Your fleet is broken. Your invasion has failed. Now you will hear our terms, or we will teach you what cleansing truly means. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Zethari had lost a war, and they had lost it to insects. The war was over, but the work was just beginning. The Treaty of Shattered Crowns was signed aboard a human space station. The station had been built from pieces of destroyed Zethari warships, a deliberate reminder of what humanity had accomplished. The new Zethari leadership, what remained of it, had no choice but to accept human terms. The Dominion surrendered 50 star systems to humanity. They agreed to pay for the rebuilding of New Horizon and every other colony they had destroyed. Their military was limited to defensive forces only. They would never threaten another species again. General Chen watched the Zethari leaders sign the treaty with quiet satisfaction. He was an old man now. The war had aged him even more. His hair was white, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes still burned with sharp intelligence. An aide approached him after the ceremony. Sir, the galaxy is watching. They want you to speak. Chen shook his head. I am a soldier, not a speaker. Find someone better. But there was no one better. And so, reluctantly, he stood before the cameras and spoke to a watching universe. We did not want this war, he said. We wanted peace. We wanted to explore the stars and build homes for our children. The Zethari chose violence. They thought we would be easy victims. They were wrong. He paused, his voice growing stronger. Let the galaxy remember what happened here. Humanity is young. We live short lives. We make mistakes. But we do not surrender. We do not kneel. And when we are threatened, we fight with everything we have. Not because we love war, but because we love what we are fighting for. Across the galaxy, other species watched and listened. For thousands of years, they had lived in fear of the Zethari. Some had been conquered, others had hidden, hoping to avoid the Empire's attention. All of them had believed the Dominion was unbeatable. Now they knew the truth. The Dominion could be beaten. A young species with primitive technology had proven it. Messages began arriving from across the stars. The Confederacy of Kelmori, a peaceful trading alliance, sent diplomats to Earth. They wanted friendship. They wanted to learn how humans had done the impossible. The hive mind of Arcturus, a mysterious collective intelligence, requested cultural exchange. They said they had watched the war with interest. They wanted to understand what made humans so dangerous. Even species that had served the Zethari as slaves began reaching out. They saw humanity as liberators, as hope. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of that change. But victory had come at a terrible cost. On the ruins of New Horizon, a memorial was built. It stood where the largest city had once been, now just a plain of glass and ash. The memorial was simple. A tall pillar of white stone, surrounded by gardens brought from Earth. The names of every person who had died were etched into the pillar, written in light that would shine forever. General Chen stood before the memorial on the day it was dedicated. He was joined by millions of humans, some in person, most watching from across the stars. The silence was absolute. 2,300,000 people died here, Chen said, his voice heavy with grief. Men and women, children, elderly, families, dreams. They did not choose to die. They were murdered by an empire that saw them as insects, as pests to be exterminated. He touched the pillar, his fingers tracing a name only he knew. We cannot bring them back. We cannot undo what was done. But we can make sure their deaths had meaning. We can build a future where no human, no species, ever has to fear such cruelty again. He turned to face the crowd, his eyes bright with unshed tears. The Zethari thought our short lives made us weak. They never understood the truth. Our lives are short, yes, but that makes every moment precious. Every sunrise, every laugh, every kiss, every dream. We know that time is limited, so we waste none of it. We fight for our moments with everything we have. His voice grew stronger. They thought we would surrender because we had so much to lose. They were wrong. We fought because we had so much to lose. Our families, our homes, our future. We fought for all of it, and we will keep fighting. For as long as there are stars in the sky and breath in our bodies. The crowd began to cheer. It started small, a few voices here and there. Then it spread, growing louder, until millions of humans were shouting their defiance at the sky. Chen raised his hand for silence. Remember the dead, honor their memory, but do not let grief consume you. Build, create, explore. Show the universe what humanity can do when we work together. That is the best memorial we can give them. 1 year later, the UES Remember New Horizon launched on its maiden voyage. It was humanity's greatest ship, larger than anything they had ever built before. Its hull was made from materials developed during the war. Its weapons could threaten any enemy. Its shields could withstand almost anything. But its true power lay in its purpose. It was not a warship. It was an explorer, a seeker of new worlds and new friends, a symbol of what humanity wanted to become. Captain David Osei stood on its bridge, looking out at the stars. He was young, only 30, but his eyes carried the weight of loss. On his uniform, he wore a medal that had belonged to his mother, the woman who had given her life to kill an emperor. A photograph hung on the wall of his quarters. It showed his mother in her uniform, smiling, full of life. He had been 14 when she died. He had sworn to honor her memory. Now he commanded a ship named for the world that had started everything. As the ship prepared to leave, a figure approached him. It was a Zethari, one of the new liaisons assigned to work with humanity. The alien species had been enemies just 2 years ago. Now they served side by side with humans, trying to build something better. The Zethari's name was Velzara. She was young by her species standards, barely 300 years old. She had opposed the war from the beginning. Now she worked to repair the damage her people had done. Captain, she said, her voice hesitant. May I ask you a question? David nodded. Of course. Your species defeated us, killed our emperor, broke our empire. You could have destroyed us completely, taken revenge for what we did to your people. She paused. Why did you not? David was silent for a long moment. He thought about his mother, about the millions who had died at New Horizon, about all the grief and rage that still burned in human hearts. Because revenge is easy, he finally said. Building something better is hard. My mother did not die so we could become the monsters we were fighting. She died so we could live. All of us. Humans, Zethari, everyone. Velzara considered this. Your species is strange. You live such brief lives, yet you think so far ahead. David smiled. It was his mother's smile, fierce and determined. That is the secret the galaxy never understood about us. We know we will die, so we focus on what we leave behind, the children we raise, the worlds we build, the future we create. We fight not for ourselves, but for those who will come after. He turned to face the stars again. The engines hummed as the ship prepared to jump into the unknown. We do not want your worlds, David said. We do not want your fear. We just want the galaxy to remember one thing. Velzara waited. David's smile grew wider. Never mess with humanity. The ship leaped into the stars, carrying humanity's hope toward new horizons. Centuries later, a Zethari historian completed her life's work, a complete account of the human HFY War. She had spent 200 years gathering records, interviewing survivors, and studying the events that had changed the galaxy forever. In the final chapter, she wrote, "In our arrogance, we saw only their short lives and fragile bodies. We failed to see what made them terrifying. They were never afraid to die. They were only afraid of dying without meaning. And so, we gave them one. We gave them a reason to unite, to fight, to become something greater than they had ever been. In trying to destroy them, we created the very force that destroyed us." She closed the book and looked out at the night sky, where human and Zethari ships flew side by side, exploring the universe together. "Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all," she wrote in her final note. "Not that humanity defeated us, but that afterward, they chose to forgive. They chose to build rather than destroy. They chose hope over hate. In the end, they proved themselves not just the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but also, perhaps, the most noble. And somewhere among the stars, the children of humanity continued to reach for new worlds, new friends, new futures. They carried with them the memory of all who had sacrificed, all who had fought, all who had believed that their brief lives could change the universe. They had been right.